Assalamu alaikum everyone. So I'm here with the video for the types of quadrilaterals so that it becomes easy for us to do in the class. Once you know properly what are the properties and different types of quadrilaterals and what is the different, we know that square is also a quadrilateral, a rhombus, this is a rhombus, right? So though all the sides are equal, why isn't we call this as a square, right? What's the difference between a square and a rectangle, and a parallelogram and a rectangle? So all these doubts, it will be cleared, okay, once we go through this quadrilateral tree. Okay, so you have, this is the quadrilateral tree which have different types of quadrilaterals, okay, and you can say the set of after imposing some conditions, okay, so we come up with different new quadrilateral, okay. So what are those conditions, and then one by one let's see the properties of it as well, okay. So we are going to learn this as a story, or you can say in a proper sequence, okay, so that it will be very clear for you all. I hope you are concentrating this video. If you are not able to understand it, repeat this video for the second time, it's very important, okay. The whole unit, now rest unit, what is the remaining for us to be in, to do the exercise, is just based on this video now, okay. So I hope everyone is concentrating, and inshallah we will take class on Monday as well. I'll WhatsApp on the group what is the timing of the class. I hope everyone is going to attend this. Alright, so let's start with this quadrilateral tree, okay. So we all know now very clearly quadrilateral is a polygon with four sides, right? Four vertices, four sides, four angles, okay. So let's first of all consider a quadrilateral, any quadrilateral which has four sides like this, okay. Now it's very simple, like we are just taking any quadrilateral of four sides, okay. So now this arrow mark is now here, these arrow marks represents the condition imposing, okay. To this first, we are started with this first quadrilateral, okay, figure. To this first quadrilateral we are imposing the condition of to get this, to convert this quadrilateral into a quadrilateral which has one pair of parallel lines, okay, one pair of parallel lines. So we have got a pair of parallel lines in this, okay, which are opposite, okay, parallel, obviously parallel lines, they will be exactly opposite, all right. And so it had come up with this idea of figure of called trapezium, okay, trapezium, all right. So when a quadrilateral is divided into different kingdoms, I can say, so to make it interesting, so one by one they had imposed some conditions, okay. The first condition was one pair of parallel lines was needed for a quadrilateral. So when it had this condition is imposed, it came up with this quadrilateral called trapezium, okay. So when you come for the properties of trapezium, okay, it's not that interesting as when we go for this, okay. So it's just like you have two parallel lines, so this line is like a transversal, right? So this transversal interior angles on the same side, they are, we have already studied this, they are supplementary, that is 180 degrees, okay. So some of these two angles will be supplementary and some of these two angles will be supplementary, because two parallel lines, and if you're taking this particular line, okay, side, so this will be acting as a transversal, okay, So interior angles of on the same side of the transversal are what? Supplementary. Okay, so these two angles together, they are supplementary, and these two angles together, they form the supplementary pair. All right, so that is the only property of trapezium which we need to know about it. All right, okay, so now let's see for what is the next part of your quadrilateral. Now to this trapezium, the next part of the quadrilateral, it is going to be interesting and important part of all the quadrilaterals. So to this trapezium, when the next condition imposed is another pair of parallel line. Okay, so another pair of parallel lines. So in trapezium we just have one pair of parallel line. To this trapezium, the condition is imposed that one more pair of parallel lines are needed in this. So this trapezium is stretched and it is made something like this. Okay, so forming this figure, and this is one set of parallel lines, and the other set of parallel lines are this. So this is called parallelogram. Parallelogram. I hope everyone is noting down this. These are important points, and all together in one place I am just telling you in the form of a simple story, I can say. Okay, so some set of conditions are imposed, so that parallelogram, that quadrilateral is again shaped into different quadrilateral. Okay, by applying these conditions. All right, so this is a parallelogram. Now and this is important part of the quadrilateral, important quadrilateral, I can say, parallelogram. And let's see the properties of this. So a parallelogram, you have already we know two set of parallel lines, right? Two pair or set of parallel lines. Two pair of parallel lines is one of the property. Now if we see what is the next property, you can see the sides. Okay, these two opposite sides, they are equal. That is, the corresponding side, they are congruent, and here even this side is congruent. So we have congruent sides. Okay, congruent opposite sides. So opposite sides, we can say they are congruent. Congruent means the length of the opposite sides, it is same. If I take this as parallelogram ABCD, so my side BC is equal to AD, and the other side AB is equal to CD. Okay, now done everyone. Properties. The first property is, we in the parallelogram we have two pair of parallel lines. Okay, and then we have congruent, the sides are congruent. Okay, BC is equal to AD and AB is equal to CD. Alright, so this is regarding your sides. Now you have congruent angles as well. Opposite angles, they are congruent. Opposite angles are congruent. You can see this angle. Okay, so we were looking at the properties. Okay, so parallelogram, here this is called parallelogram, right? So to this parallelogram, what was the condition imposed from the trapezium? One more set of parallel lines. So to that we have properties. Parallelogram has first opposites, two pairs of parallel lines. Okay, that is opposite sides are parallel. And the second property is what? Opposite sides are equal, or you can say congruent. Okay, and also opposite angles are congruent. Okay, so opposite angles are congruent. So we know the sign of congruency is this. Alright, okay, so the next set of property is this. You have a parallelogram like this. Okay, so we can draw how many diagonals? Two diagonals. So these two diagonals which they are cutting, they bisect each other. What is bisecting? You have a line. If you want to bisect this line, that means it will be exactly at the midpoint. Okay, so this, when it is cutting exactly at the midpoint, we say to this line AB, this line L is a bisector to AB. Okay, so diagonals bisect means what? Diagonals or bisect each other. Okay, so this diagonal A, if I take AB, CD, okay, ABD is one diagonal, so to this diagonal AC is bisecting it. Okay, if I am considering AC diagonal, so BD is bisecting AC. So two diagonals are bisecting each other. Okay, so diagonals bisect each other. I hope if you are noting down these properties, it is important. Okay, so the next set of property, what is the next property is for the parallelogram. You have a parallelogram, and if this diagonal, if I take, it is dividing it into two triangles. So these two triangles, they are congruent. Okay, if I take the other diagonal, okay, this diagonal, it is dividing into two triangles, so these two are congruent. Okay, so diagonal, any diagonal, okay, any one diagonal, when it is divides a parallelogram into two congruent triangles. Okay, congruent triangles. So triangles are congruent when you have sides, all the sides equal, or two angles and one side. Okay, already we had seen that. So this diagonal, it divides a parallelogram into two triangles which are always congruent. Okay, for all the parallelograms. So again, an important property. So now the last important property for your parallelogram is related to your what do you say, it is your angles are consecutive angles are supplementary. Let me write here, consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay, so what does this mean? You know what is consecutive? One after other. Okay, so this is a parallelogram. So we are talking about angles. If I am considering this angle, the next angle to this is consecutive angle of this. So when we say the next angle, I'm talking about this angle, the consecutive angle. Okay, these two together will form supplementary angle. Okay, so that is, these two will be equal to 180 degrees. If I start from this point, so this angle and this angle are supplementary, or this angle and this angle are supplementary. So it is consecutive angle. Okay, side by side angles, they are supplementary. So in trapezium, what was your property? We had your this, what do you say, transversal. Okay, to this transversal, which is on the angle, which is on the same side of the transversal, interior one, they are supplementary. Okay, whereas here consecutive angle, it can be any angle. These two together, they may be 180, these two together may be 180, these together will be 180, and these two together, consecutive angles, will be supplementary. I hope I'm clear about the properties of parallelogram. I think in this video I should stop till parallelogram, so that properties of parallelogram and trapezium should be digestible to you all in this video. Okay, let me repeat one more time about the parallelogram. Okay, so parallelogram, we've got the quadrilateral after imposing the condition on trapezium. Okay, so this is trapezium. to this trapezium, if we are imposing the condition of one more pair of parallel lines, right, of parallel lines, so then we got a parallelogram. Okay, we got trapezium with only one set or pair of parallel lines. So to this trapezium we are putting one more condition on it, that is one more pair of parallel lines. Then we have come up with the parallelogram as a quadrilateral. Okay, so what are the properties of parallelogram? So first property is easy, that is opposite sides are parallel, right? So we have two pairs of parallel lines. Okay, then your opposite sides are congruent. Okay, they are equal, this side is equal to this side, and opposite angles are congruent. Okay, they are equal, opposite angles are equal. Then we can say you have diagonals which bisect each other. I hope you know what is the meaning of bisecting, bisector. So bisecting is the angles, the lines bisect each other. Bisecting means exactly cutting at the midpoint of the line. So if you are considering the BD as a diagonal, this AC is cutting the diagonal exactly at its midpoint. Okay, so it is coming exactly perpendicular to this line, so forming the bisector. So vice versa, so all to both the diagonals, they cut each they bisect each other. And the next property is, we are seeing is, any quadrilateral can be divided into two triangles. It's not necessarily it is a congruent triangle, but whereas in parallelogram it is congruent. That is a property of parallelogram. So if this is a parallelogram, okay, so any diagonal if you take, so this diagonal cutting parallelogram into two triangles, so these two triangles are congruent to each other. Alright, okay, and the last property is consecutive angles are supplementary. So what do you mean by consecutive? One after other. So if I'm considering this angle, so consecutive angle to this will be, next angle will be this. So these two are supplementary. If I am starting from this point, so consecutive angle to this will be this. So these two consecutive angles will be 180 degree. Okay, so these are different properties. These properties are important when you solve some problems in your exercise, and also it's good to remember. So if you once remember these properties, so all these properties will be true for the other quadrilaterals as well. So only your trapezium is excluded in that. The rest all quadrilaterals will be applying this properties, okay, of the parallelogram. So now next, in the next video or in the class, I'll tell you how did we get your from the parallelogram, after imposing some set of instructions, okay, conditions, we get a rectangle and we get a rhombus. Okay, this is rhombus and this is rectangle. Alright, so let's continue this in the later video or in our live class on Monday. So I hope everyone will watch this video and note down these properties of parallelogram, which I have stated very clearly. Alright, if you have any doubts, we can discuss in our live class on Monday, inshallah. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.